Hello and welcome to the Growing Healthy Families podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Scott Haggerty. On this show, I interview the world's top health experts so that you can know with certainty what it takes to give your family a life of epic health and wellness.
As parents, we don't want to see our kids struggle. I knew that he had the potential, and I knew that something needed to be done.
It was hard. We would get frustrated. We didn't know how to deal with it. I was more emotional about it.
Sure that, we're here. Amen to that, brother. Amen to that.
I'm so excited for this next episode of the Growing Healthy Families podcast. You are in for an absolute treat. So we're going to be interviewing Sandy Fallon Morrell. She is the president of the Weston A. Price Foundation. And moms and dads, if you don't know about the Weston A. Price Foundation, you need to. It is a tax-exempt charity that was founded in 1999 to broadcast the research of nutrition pioneer Dr. Weston A. Price. His research established the parameters of human health and determined the optimum characteristics of the human diet. His research demonstrated that humans achieve perfect physical form and perfect health only when they consume nutrient-dense whole foods and vital fat-soluble activators found only in animal fats. The foundation's premise is they're dedicated to restoring nutrient-dense foods to the human diet via education, research, and activism. They're involved in numerous activities to support this objective, such as nutrition instruction, organic and biodynamic farming, pasture feeding of livestock, community-supported farms, honest and informative labeling, prepared parenting, and nurturing therapies. Their main goal is to establish universal access to clean, certified raw milk and to ban the use of soy formula for infants. Sandy Fallon Morrell is a published author with so many books and so much passion. And in this episode, we're going to dig heavy into what that passion is, the research that she and her foundation are doing, and all of their great activities to try and raise the awareness of the need for us to go back to more traditional human diets. Stay tuned. You're going to love it. Just tons of great value bombs coming your way. And make sure that you stay tuned to the very end because you're going to learn how to go and follow her and learn all about all of the great information that she and the foundation have in store. God bless you. Dr. Scott Haggerty back here with the Growing Healthy Families podcast. Moms and dads, I am so excited for you. As many of you who've watched the podcast know, nutrition is an absolute passion of ours. And so we are so excited today because we have Sandy Fallon Morrell, who is the president of the Weston A. Price Foundation, here on the podcast with us. Hello, Sally. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
So, it is completely our pleasure. So moms and dads, I want to share a little bit about what this amazing woman has accomplished. So Sally is the founder and president of the board of directors of the Weston A. Price Foundation. She is the author of the best-selling cookbook, Nutrition Traditions, the cookbook that challenges politically correct nutrition and the diet dictocrats. I love that title, by the way. The Nourishing Traditions book of baby and child care, the Nourishing Traditions cookbook for children, Eat Fat, Lose Fat, Nourishing Fats, and Why We Need Animal Fats for Health and Happiness. She's the founder of realmilk.com, and her organization has grown to more than 15,000 members and 600 chapters nationwide. Sally, welcome, and thank you for being here with us today to share the message of the Weston A. Price Foundation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Sally, first, obviously you've carried on the message and the work of Dr. Price. But I think, I would love to hear more about how you became interested in the work of Dr. Price.
I read Dr. Price's book in the early 1970s, and I was just starting out with my family. And the book confirmed what I was already doing. I loved to cook. I loved French cooking. We had lots of butter, cream, and liver and things like that. So I just continued on that way. But then, we started getting this low-fat message. It became more and more shrill, and it was being applied to children, which I knew was wrong. I knew that children on low-fat diets were very unhappy children. So I decided to write a book, Nourishing Traditions, that put the work of Dr. Price in a format that was easier for people to understand and it was practical. And so that's what I did. It came out in 1996, and it's just kind of grown into this phenomenon that I never expected. And then in 1999, we founded the Weston A. Price Foundation to keep the information current.
Well, and in doing the research about the organization, it looks like your message has grown very rapidly in terms of there's so many different branches and arms that you create: publishing, education, research.
Yes, yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about, some of these different avenues that you've used to go and reach the public?
Well, everybody learns in different ways. I'm a reader. I like to read, and I've always been a reader. But a lot of people learn better by listening or seeing or attending a conference. So we try to provide our message in as many media as we can. If you want to read the scientific articles, they're in our journal, they're on our website. Practical articles in our journal and website, but we have a podcast, we have videos, and then we do our yearly conference. So it's just, we're trying to get this message out in as many ways that we can. And I think a lot of people have picked up our message and actually don't even know where it comes from. Just for example, fermented foods is a really big thing right now. And most people don't realize that this was started by us. We started educating people how to do these fermented foods.
That's tremendous. I know my staff here eat and drink fermented foods all the time. So thank you very much. So let's talk with moms and dads who maybe aren't as familiar with the basic concept of what you teach, and Dr. Price's work was really foundational on. So why don't you give everybody kind of the overview of what really the core foundation of your nutritional principles are?
Yes. So the overview, the elevator message is nutrient dense. The diets that produce beautiful, healthy people with straight teeth, strong bones, strong immunity to disease were nutrient-dense diets. They were very, very high in minerals, but they were also high in what we call the fat-soluble vitamins. These are vitamins A, D, and K, without which you cannot absorb any of those minerals. But when you have a diet that's high in minerals and high in these fat-soluble vitamins, you get beautiful people. You get wide faces, naturally straight teeth, good strong bones and tendons. I'm sure that's important for you. And so where do we get these fat-soluble vitamins? Well, we get them in the fats of pastured animals. So in butter, egg yolks, lard, in liver, organ meats of animals raised outside, and uncertain seafoods. And mostly these are the very foods we're being told not to eat. The foods that were sacred to traditional people, that they did everything in their power to obtain, are the foods that have been demonized today. So no wonder people are confused, and no wonder people trying to do the right thing, trying to follow the government guidelines, end up really sick. And unfortunately, their children end up even sicker because each generation on a bad diet gets weaker.
And it's so true. I mean, we see this on a daily basis that, with one generation sick, then the next generation tends to follow down the suit of having an even worse, set of health issues than the prior generation.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about, so when Dr. Price was doing his research, he was doing a lot of his research into traditional peoples, and he scoured the world, if I'm correct, understanding how a lot of these traditional populations, what they eat and how they lived. Many people have actually called him the Isaac Newton of nutrition.
Yes. Yeah.
So can you expand a little bit about some of the things that he found in terms of commonalities among these traditional people?
Right. And by the way, you couldn't do his studies today. He was doing them at exactly the right time when there still were populations of healthy traditional people for him to study, but also they were side by side with the people who'd been modernized. So you could see the effects of the sugar and white flour on their health. First of all, they developed rampant tooth decay. That was immediately obvious. But he also watched the next generation, and the children who were brought up on these diets, they were much weaker. They had crooked teeth, not just decayed teeth, but crooked teeth. So anyway, the commonalities, well, Dr. Price, number one, there was no processed food in these diets. Number two, there were animal foods in all these diets. And we have to remember the animal foods are 10 to 1,000 times more nutrient dense than the plant foods. Plant foods have their place, but you cannot have a nutrient dense diet without animal foods. And then thirdly, the high levels of fat soluble activators, vitamins A, D, and K. And the last thing was very interesting. It was about preparation for having children, preparation for pregnancy. The traditional people prepared with special diets before conception. And then after the child was born, they had various ways of spacing their children. They thought it was shameful to have a child more than once every 3 years. And this practice perfectly accords with the science, which has shown that the ideal spacing for the prevention of birth defects is 3 years. So the mom waited till the child was about 2.5 before she got pregnant again.
Very interesting. And you know, that's something that we talk about here all the time, is the importance of nutrition and the recovery time. So it really,
Yes.
you know, the physiological recovery time is at a bare minimum of 2.5 to 3 years for mom. So, and it's really important the mom's body is rebuilt afterwards. So that's wonderful
Absolutely.
that you made that statement, because we talk about that here literally on a daily basis with the pregnant moms or moms who are considering conceiving. So I'm so glad that you brought that statement up.
And by the way, I published a book called Honoring Our Cycles, which shows it's a natural child spacing, so you don't have to use hormonal birth control. It's called Honoring Our Cycles, and this is a skill that every woman should have, and something she should insist on in the family life, that she should not be burdened with having children too frequently.
And moms and dads, because there's so many different books that Sally has written, we're going to make sure we have all of the links to these books in the show notes, so that you can access every single one of these here for your own resource library, because I think that's tremendous. So there was a statement that I saw that on the website. I want you to elaborate on this for a moment. And you said the American diet is killing us.
Yes, unfortunately, it doesn't kill immediately. It kills slowly over generations. So the first generation on a typical American diet, the kids will need braces and glasses. Okay. The second generation, you're going to see all the allergies and maybe digestive problems, that kind of stuff, skin problems, asthma. You'll start seeing what I would call the adrenal problems. That comes in the next generation. The next generation, you'll see very serious disease, arthritis, cancer in children, and infertility. In other words, there won't be a fourth generation. And we're seeing widespread infertility today of people on the standard American diet. And by the way, the chief difference between the standard American diet and the traditional healthy diet is that the standard American diet uses vegetable oils and the traditional healthy diet used animal fats. And I know this is a shocking statement to people, but animal fats are essential to life. They're essential to growth. They're essential to reproduction. And until we get back to using butter and cooking in lard and eating the fat in their meat, eating the egg yolks, eating whole fat dairy products, you cannot turn things around in your diet without these good, healthy animal fats.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it's interesting because so many people get used to the USDA guidelines and the recommendations, and so many of these have this low fat, high carbohydrate component to it that really pushes people away from the consumption of animal fats that, if you look back at history, have been staples throughout human history. Every major population's foodstuffs. And
in my book, Nourishing Diets, I talk about populations like the Australian Aborigines. If they got a kangaroo or a fish that didn't have enough fat on it, it was called rubbish. And it was thrown away. It was just not worth eating if you didn't have the fat.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, when you talk about the importance of fats for the function of everything from hormonal production, I mean, we can't produce hormones if we don't have enough of the right types of, and not omegas, we need the saturateds.
Yeah, and actually, something I've been stressing a lot these days, there's an omega-3 fatty acid that we can only get in animal fats. We can't get it in seafood. We can't get it in plant foods. Can't get it in the protein part. It's only in the fats. It's called arachidonic acid, and arachidonic acid is the substance that we make feel-good chemicals out of, our natural cannabinoids. So without these animal fats, you actually feel terrible, and you're prone to addictions.
It's a great statement, and moms and dads, I want you to take that to heart. That's a really, really important thing that she said. we need these fats to help us to drive production of normal neurotransmitters.
Absolutely.
And everyone's hearing about CBD oil, right? Because what they're trying to do is to try and drive the endocannabinoid system.
Exactly. And we make our own endocannabinoids with the substances in animal fats. So when you're avoiding animal fats, you won't feel well. You won't feel happy. By the way, and the other thing we get from animal fats is cholesterol. And of course, cholesterol has been demonized for 100 years now. But growing children need cholesterol, and they do not make cholesterol. They need cholesterol in their diet, and that's why mother's milk is very rich in cholesterol and has special enzymes to ensure the baby absorbs all the cholesterol. Okay, but what happens when you wean the baby? Our guidelines tell you to give the baby skim milk and no eggs and nothing like that. So the baby is starved of cholesterol, and the baby needs cholesterol for the development of the nervous system, the brain, and the second brain, which is the gut. So, we recommend that the first foods for babies be egg yolk and liver, the two highest cholesterol foods there are. And of course, they're very nutrient-dense foods. And what do we do instead? We give our babies rice, cereal, and applesauce. I mean, this is starvation of our babies, and no wonder they become prone to neurological disorders and digestive disorders.
Mm-hmm. I could not agree more with the profoundness of that statement, because that's something that I think that a lot of moms and dads are being told in many conventional settings, that start your babies on fortified rice cereals and put your baby on soy-based formulas. And and obviously these are things that I know you have strong opinions. Why don't you share with us some of the reasons why this is such a significant issue for babies?
Well, babies are going through this period when they're programmed to grow and develop, make neurological connections, develop the gut wall. And this is a window of opportunity. And after a certain time, that window is gone. You might start a nutrient-dense diet later on, but the time when you were making those connections and putting everything together, that has passed. And traditional people understood this very well, that you had to have extra nutrition, certain special foods during this growth period. Afterwards, once you'd built your strong body, you could take all kinds of punishment. You could take starvation. You could take, all kinds of privation. But during the growth period is when the diet is so critical. So, of course, we're recommending lots of egg yolks, the pureed liver for baby, cod liver oil, to get your vitamins A and D, and of course, big eyebrow raiser is the raw whole milk from pastured animals. And this gives baby a wonderful start in life, and that will give him the good, strong body he needs for his whole life. And only the parents can do that for the baby. So parents have a tremendous responsibility to know what you're doing, to educate yourselves, and then to find and prepare these foods.
So, Sally, many of the moms and dads are probably at this point in time thinking, my goodness, there's a lot of learning that has to go into doing this the right way to go and set themselves and their children up for a healthy life. I know that your organization has taken the lead in creating resources for moms and dads. And I know that one of the things that you've done is you've created the Healthy for Life dietary plan as a counter to the USDA guidelines. Would you mind explaining this to what moms and dads, what this says?
Yes. So I every 5 years, the USDA is mandated to update their guidelines. And in 2005 and 2010, we went to these hearings and testified. And it was just wasted energy. They had already decided what they were going to say. And we heard other scientists very frustrated, saying, we need to upgrade more egg yolks, more choline. Oh, but you can't do that. There's cholesterol in the choline. So we decided to publish our own dietary guidelines. It's called Healthy for Life. We have 4 food groups. One is animal foods, second, which includes dairy foods. 2 is grains and legumes and nuts, and we put the legumes there where they belong, not in the animal foods. 3 is fruits and vegetables, and 4 is a category of healthy fats. And this book is written at a very simple level. I mean, this book is all you need, really, if you want to prepare. There's a page on preparing for pregnancy and the pregnancy diet, and very simple recipes throughout the book. So you can order that. We also have it in Italian and Spanish, and we'll soon have it in French.
Wow, that's wonderful. So moms and dads, make sure that you get that as soon as you can to go and really start building that foundation for healthy and powerful nutrition for your family, because the sooner that you start, the healthier that your family is going to become.
Yeah, it's worth. I mean, we publish in our journal. It's a Healthy Baby Gallery. The pictures of these beautiful babies, beautiful broad-faced, happy, cheerful babies that have been born to parents who follow these guidelines. And it's a formula, and I can tell you this formula works. It works beautifully.
Yep. And I can speak to this firsthand because we follow this exact same formula in our home. And I have two babies that are just, I mean, not babies anymore, right? 8 and 6. But we've watched them in a combination of, getting adjusted on a regular basis and proper nutrition, that their children who are extremely rare, they're sick. We watch,
Yes.
They don't have allergies, they don't have skin disorders. And we've seen this expression of health because their body is getting what it needs to express at its fullest. And you've seen this in your own family as well.
Oh, I absolutely have. And I have 4 children, and I have 4 grandchildren who are brought up this way, and they're just wonderful, wonderful children. And what is more important than bringing healthy children into the world?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Yeah.
Yep. Sally, in 2010, the USDA really began the condemnation of the consumption of fatty foods such as egg yolks, butter, whole milk, cheese, bacon, and animal fats due to all of the perceived negative health effects, while encouraging consumption of products such as soy-based products. So I know this is a big question, right? But let's start talking more specifically about pregnant moms and growing children. How can this impact the health of the mom when she's pregnant and, of course, the growing children?
So soy is a toxic plant. There are over 250 entries in the FDA toxic plant database on soy. And it's toxic for many reasons, but one of them is the high levels of isoflavones. Isoflavones are plant-based estrogens. And there's 10 times more estrogens in soy than there are in the next food, which is peas. And peas is known as an anti-fertility agent. So if you're eating a lot of soy, you may have trouble getting pregnant. Or if you're eating soy when you're pregnant, you are going to flood the baby's bloodstream with estrogens. If you're eating soy when you're nursing, if you're giving the baby soy-based formula, or even if you are giving baby milk, we have a raw milk formula from cows eating soy. All of that gets into the baby's bloodstream and can have very adverse effects in little girls. It can hasten the development of breasts and pubic hair. We've seen this in babies as young as 2 years old. Mm-hmm. This is not normal, and it's very sad that these girls will have reproductive problems. And then the little boys, it's kind of a crapshoot with little boys. Either they develop very masculine, very young, or they develop quite feminine and have troubles going through puberty. So the other thing that these isoflavones do is cause thyroid problems, and you don't want to go through life with a slow thyroid or Hashimoto's or whatever. Soy is like a handgun to your thyroid gland.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that you talked about the early onset of reproductive traits, because one of the studies that I was reading has actually shown that in young girls, that over the course of the last 15 years, they've noticed that the age of onset of puberty has gone down from an average of 11 to an average of 9.5 years.
I know, and this is not right. You're robbing these girls of their childhood, mm-hmm. and they're getting sexual traits way too young.
Yep. And the other side of it is too, and this is something that you touched upon, is that because the soy-based compounds, because they are phytoestrogens, they can also set up an increased likelihood of developing breast cancer because of the potential for estrogen dominance in long-term consumption. Am I correct?
That's right. Breast cancer and uterine cancer as well.
Yeah. So
and one of the traits that's come out in several studies is a very long and painful menstrual cycles. So these girls will have problems all their lives.
Yeah. So moms and dads, I mean, obviously we all love our children, and I think that when you start hearing these awareness points, I hope these are setting in and realizing, wow, there's a bigger picture to this, that maybe everything we've heard about soy is not necessarily true. Because if you start combing the research, there's a lot of evidence that says that we should not be consuming much soy, if any soy at all, and that there is a need for these really nutrient-dense fats that Sally's been talking about. Am I correct?
That's correct. You see, I have to understand that 80% of the oil that's used in processed food is soybean oil. It is a huge and powerful lobbying group. And the soy protein that they're using in all these foods, including the new Impossible Burger, which is made of soy, is what they take from the sludge of the soybean oil. They extract the protein with all the toxins still there, and they make it into these processed fake foods. And it is very hard to get this view about soy across because this industry pretty much controls the newspapers. Although I think we've been very successful in warning people. Most people realize that there's something wrong with soy. And they've heard it. They don't know it's coming from us, but they've heard it. So, I mean, this conscience is getting out there, and I'm surprised the Impossible Burgers were bragging that their burgers are made of soy. I don't think they'll be very successful in selling them.
Well, let's hope not.
Yeah, this is a time when you're having children. It's a time to put aside any ideas that maybe you should be a vegetarian. If you want to be a vegetarian when you're older and lose all your teeth in, that's fine. But when you're having your children, you have an absolute responsibility to nourish yourself as well as you can, and to bring that baby up on a diet with very nutrient-dense animal foods. And I can tell you there's a lot of parents who've gone to jail for child abuse for trying to bring up their babies vegan or vegetarian.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, Sally, you brought up a very important point. Moms and dads have been inundated with this message that, animal foods are bad and that you have to eat soy and you have to eat high carbohydrate foods. And so what do you feel are the most important steps that we can do to reverse the myths that are being proliferated to us in the media and in a lot of the scientific literature that we know isn't true?
Well, I think the first thing you can do is be a member of the Weston A. Price Foundation. The membership's just $40 a year. And with your membership, you get a quarterly journal, which is just packed with information. You get all of our materials, which are great teaching tools. Like we have 12 little trifold flyers. One's on butter, one's on cholesterol, one's on industrial fats and oils. One's on soy, one's on sugar. So you can get this information in little bites. Listen to our podcast, sign up for our podcast, which is twice weekly. And also, in addition to your podcast, and when you become a member, you get our action alerts and our emails. We try not to overload you, but we do send things out depending on the need.
That's wonderful. And it sounds like the resources that you have that you've created are just tremendous. I mean, I was combing on things like the realmilk.com and the Find Real Food website and app. So there's, in addition to what's on the website itself, these other resources are tremendous. Would you mind letting moms and dads know a little bit more about realmilk.com and Find Real, Real Food website?
So realmilk.com is a project of the Weston A. Price Foundation. It promotes what we call real milk. This is milk from pasture-fed cows. It's full fat and it's unprocessed. So this is raw milk. I know that's a very controversial subject, but I can't think of anything more important for your growing children to have as is raw milk. We have a system of local chapters all over the world, and if you don't know where to find real milk, you call your local chapter and they will know. And I can tell you that it's widely available, either produced in your own state or being brought in by farmers. So raw milk is the fastest growing niche agricultural product in the country. And it is a magic healthy food for growing children.
That's wonderful. And we'll make sure we have all of the links to all of the local chapters put here onto the show notes too, because moms and dads, It's true. I have lots of moms and dads here that have been feeding their children raw milk right from the time that they were born as a supplement. If they had lack of production, they would start using raw milk as a supplement. And it's a great replacement because it's so nutrient dense, helps the gut flora, and a million other things that are really powerful.
Yeah. And after all, breast milk is raw milk. So if you don't have enough milk, or you have to wean, or it's time to wean, what better replacement than raw milk from another species? You can't get any closer. And raw cow's milk is a very nutrient dense food. You use goat milk or sheep milk, but mostly it's cow's milk that's available.
Awesome. Sally, a lot of moms and dads find nutrition somewhat overwhelming.
Yeah.
Right? So if a mom and dad is sitting there right now and they're thinking, boy, this is a lot for me to take in, what would you give them as a recommendation to take first steps? Where would be the place where you would tell them this is where you need to start on your journey to learning how to master nutrition for your family?
Well, number one is use butter. Switch to butter. I would go through your cupboards and throw away all processed foods. Start cooking. It can be very simple. I would get onto some raw milk and raw dairy products. I would learn to make bone broth, gelatin-rich bone broth, which, by the way, is probably the chiropractor's best friend because it helps you build such strong tendons and joints, and helps the adjustment stay right instead of be gone after just a couple of days. So if you have my book, Nourishing Traditions, in the back is a list of steps if you don't have much time and don't have a big budget. So that's where I would start. I would also really encourage your patients to come to our conference, which is going to be this year, 2019, the 15th through the 17th of November in Allen, Texas. And come to my seminar. I only give it once a year, which is on the Saturday, my seminar on traditional diets. And I really try to break it down so it's simple. Here are the 11 characteristics of traditional diets, and here's 11 things that you can do to start these diets.
Wonderful. And we'll make sure we have all of the links to that event posted on the show notes page as well, because mom and dad, this is a great opportunity for you to learn firsthand from the people that are leading the charge to create healthy families. So we'll make sure we have a little part that posted. So, Sally,
by the way, we have childcare at the conference. So yeah, you can bring your children.
Big win. So Sally, I think it's important that moms and dads that are passionate about your mission, that they get up and support. And I think that it's important also that moms and dads have an understanding too when they're in support of a mission like the Weston A. Price Foundation, that they know what they're doing, what it means to become a member, and what it supports. So what type of projects does a member's money help to fund when they begin supporting you?
Well, it supports raw milk and helping farmers produce raw milk, helping people find raw milk, helping defend raw milk. So that's one thing. It supports our efforts to allow choice in vaccinations. We have efforts in every state on that. It supports our efforts to bring the latest science to you so you can understand what the studies are really saying. It supports our efforts to teach people how to cook, which is we have a lot of videos on our website. It supports the upkeep of our huge website, westonaprice.org. It supports the production of all our educational materials. So we do a lot. And we also do research. We pay for research into what's in the foods, the vitamins, and so forth.
That's wonderful. So moms and dads, Sally mentioned a couple of great things that you can do to go and get resourcing. So their website is absolutely loaded with information. And the website address is
westonaprice.org.
Excellent.
And there's on the right-hand nav bar, there's a thing that says take a tour. So that's for newcomers on the site.
Wonderful. One of the things I thought was really cool is that your logo is unique. Your logo has meaning. So when moms and dads go there, they're going to see the three different earths. Can you explain what your logo means?
Okay. And by the way, we have a chalk talk on the logo. I'm not sure you've seen that. Yeah. So if you click, it says, I think you can click there or click at the bottom of the first paragraph and see the chalk talk. So it's the map of the world. And on the left one is a big round circle, and the middle over the United States and North America is a sort of a narrow oval. And then on the right is a big round oval again. So the left is the past, when people had this beautiful facial structure on traditional diets. The middle one is the modern face, which is what you get on processed food that came from America mainly. And then on the right is what we're trying to get back to, the beautiful, well-formed faces as people go back to their traditional European or African diets. So yeah, it has great meaning, that logo.
It does.
It's funny. A lot of people say, "Oh, I think you need a new logo. Why do you have this logo?" And then when we explain it to them, they say, "Oh, that's really neat. That's really neat."
I love logos with significance. So when I saw that, I wanted to make sure we brought that up, because I just think it's so cool that, everything you do is congruent, right? We see this congruency with message. The logo has the meaning, everything that you do. And I think that's fantastic. So, Sally, I want to make sure that all of the moms and dads on here also are able to actively follow you, both you and the foundation. So where can the foundation be found on social media?
So my blog is nourishingtraditions.com. And we were just talking before the show. I did several blogs on Dr. Rosin, who's at the Cleveland Clinic. Mm-hmm. And I was pretty scathing about that. So that's nourishingtraditions.com. And then there's westonaprice.org. And we have a blog at realmilk.com. We have the podcasts. And then if you're a member, you get all of our updates.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And we'll make sure that we have all of the links to all of the resources, social media, websites, everything like that on the show notes as well. So, Sally, I think this has been fantastic. I thank you so much for sharing your time with us and being so giving to not just to people here on the podcast, but to mankind, because we need people like you to continuously step up and lead and get this information out to the world. So thank you so much for all of your hard work.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for your work. And we look forward to kind of cross-pollinating here with this podcast and with all of the wonderful work that you're doing.
Thank you very much. And moms and dads, keep your eyes open, because you're going to see lots of information on our Facebook page. And I want you to make sure that you're getting over to the Weston A. Price Foundation Facebook page as well, where there's going to be just tons of great resources. So you're going to see lots of stuff coming your way. Yeah,
I meant to say we have a huge social media presence. Big Facebook page, Twitter, we do all that stuff. So we have a private members Facebook page too.
Oh, that's wonderful. And so what does it take to become a member of the private members Facebook page?
Well, you need to be a member of the Weston A. Price Foundation. It's $40. You can join online, and then you can sign in to be on that Facebook page.
And moms and dads, $40 is nothing. I mean, that's a movie over the course of a weekend to go and help go and really change the future for our children and for our families.
Absolutely.
So Sally, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we have you on here again to continue the message and continue sharing the powerful work that you're doing at the Weston A. Price Foundation.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Moms and dads, so if you love this episode, then you need to make sure that you spread the word. So if you're watching us on iTunes or Stitcher, make sure that you go to wherever you're watching us at, make sure that you give us a rating. Make sure you subscribe and review the podcast, and make sure that you share this with the people that you care about the most so that they can hear all of the powerful information here that we discussed today. So thank you so much again for being with us, Sally. And moms and dads, God bless you all, and be elite.
Thank you for listening to the Growing Healthy Families podcast, the world's #1 source for health education. Make sure to go to iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a review. Make sure to follow us on social media at the links listed in the show notes, and let us know what area of health you are struggling with, so we can get you and your family on the road to epic health.